I want to welcome everyone to Iowa City Noon Rotary. It's great every Thursday to see all these smiling faces, and hopefully everyone is enjoying the breakout rooms. We're trying to simulate the small group networking that we all enjoy so much. So I'm Eric Weiler, your president this year, and we start every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could please unmute yourself, we're going to put a slide up of the American flag here momentarily. If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Thank you. We're now going to kick it back over to Devin for our favorite Zoom tips with Devin.
Your favorite Zoom tips. I will endeavor to make it the best one yet. As ever, check out your view. You can switch between seeing all the smiling faces of your fellow Rotarians and our guests and visitors. Up in the right-hand corner, you can change your view between gallery or speaker. And then when we have a speaker, you can switch between it. And there should be a slider in the middle of your screen, and you should be able to slide that if you're on a computer to see more of Kehry's beautiful face or more of his beautiful presentation, depending on what you're wanting to look at. Then you can go down to the bottom to the chat, sign in, talk to your friends, that sort of thing. And then finally, in the reactions tab, you have all sorts of emojis, including the best emoji, saxophone emoji. But what you type in, find all sorts of things. I imagine that it's there just to add some fun, and then use that raise hand function like I have in my screen right now if you have questions, or if you want to introduce somebody, or if you want to do an announcement later. Back to you, President Eric.
Great, thank you, Devin. So now is a great opportunity to use your Zoom skills. If you're a visiting Rotarian, or if you're a Rotarian with a guest, please click raise hand and we'll call on you to introduce yourself and your guest. Do you have any folks today? All right, we'll transition to announcements, and we have a Iowa City West High School student with us here today, and she's going to talk about a great fundraiser they're doing for the Iowa Most program. So, Carisha, did I get your name correct?
Yeah, that was good.
Yes, okay, yeah, go right ahead and tell us what you guys have going on.
Awesome. First of all, thank you for having me here. My name is Krisha Kapoor, and I'm a junior at Iowa City West High School. So this year I'm working with the nonprofit Iowa Most, which is funded by Rotary. And if you didn't know, Iowa Most does a mission every year, and they go to a town called Huehuetenango in Guatemala to do cleft lip and cleft palate surgery. So this nonprofit means a lot to me because I'm an Iowa City native, and I really like how the project takes our best doctors, nurses, and students to go help the underprivileged. So on April 4th at the Corval Center Performing Arts at 6:30, I'm helping Iowa Most do a benefit concert to raise money for their mission in September. So at this concert, we'll have people, West High students and City High students performing and showing off some of their talents. And we'll have people from the trip sharing their experiences from the trip and what they do on the trip. And we'll have lots of fundraising opportunities. The cost for the ticket is $12 for adults. And I would love if as many Rotarians could be there because you guys are a really huge part of the nonprofit. Yeah, if you're interested in buying a ticket, I'll link the ticket information in the chat. And then I'll also have my email and then Nancy's email. You can reach out to us if you're interested in being a larger sponsor for the event. That would also be amazing. But yeah, so the event's on April 4th at 6:30 p.m. at the Corval Center of Performing Arts. Nancy, is there anything else I forgot to add?
I think, yeah, there Nancy goes.
$12 for adults, and Krisha, remind me for students, is it? Remind me. 7? Okay. Yeah. Or if you want to make a donation, and it's easily done on the Iowa Most website under fundraising.
Great.
I think that's it.
Great. Thank you, Nancy.
Krisha.
Yep. Krisha, yeah, thanks for all that you're doing with your high school colleagues to raise money for Iowa Most, and good luck with your classes and everything. Hopefully we'll have a good showing of Rotary Club at the event. So thank you again for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
And then Brad Baldus. Brad, yep, you've got an announcement about the Ronald McDonald House Golf Tournament.
I do, if you can hear me. I wanted to, let's see, share my screen and just reiterate one of the slides that we put in the weekly PowerPoint for today. The Rotary Ronald McDonald House Golf Committee is rolling along here, and we're excited because 2 years ago, 2020, we had to postpone this event and then ultimately cancel it. And then last year, we had to reformat it from our traditional shotgun start and end of event dinner to a tea time structure with no end of event dinner. And we're excited about our plan at this point to go back to the shotgun start and have a dinner at the end of the event, and do so in the new Nagel Family Clubhouse and Bumps Restaurant at Finkbine Golf Course, which is really nice. So this is my first announcement that coming up on the first Monday in June, June 6th, we will be conducting the For the Families golf outing sponsored by Rotary. And on the right side of the slide, you can see 3 opportunities: A, to register to play, B, or 2, to sponsor a hole or sponsor the event, and 3, or C, to adopt a program at the house, essentially make a donation to specifically support a specific program there. And we will be talking about this more as the months go on, but time is flying. So we're at the end of February, and June 6th is coming up. So the information website is on this slide that's in your weekly PowerPoint for reference. I can put it in the chat too, if that's helpful. And that is it. Thank you.
Brad, I'm always impressed by the great work the golf committee does, and I see it's the 21st annual. We have to be getting awfully close to raising $1 million lifetime.
I think I saw a 858 number recently. I have that number written down somewhere, but I tend to remember it when we're done and I'm announcing what we actually raised and what the cumulative, not when we're ramping up for the next season. I kind of put that behind and said, we're starting over. We need to do it all over again.
Yeah. Thanks for your great work on the committee. And yeah, it's a great opportunity for us to support the Ronald McDonald House. Ryan Bell, you've got an announcement?
Yeah, thanks, President Eric. This will be a co-announcement with Dr. Jim Merchant. And we thought we would have a guest, Fiona Johnson, who works at the Johnson County Ambulatory Service, but she may have gotten called into something more important. So we've got an exciting announcement. I'm going to let Jim fill in the details of what has transpired over the last couple of weeks regarding the Rotary Kerber Heart Safe Community Campaign. Jim, are you there to take it away?
I am here, Ryan. Thank you. And yeah, Fiona is being interviewed on the radio, one of the radio stations right now. That's why she could not make it. Fiona Johnson is the director of the Johnson County Ambulance Service. She's a member of the committee, our Rotary Kerber Heart Safe Community Campaign Committee. And you may have seen in the news, on TV and in the newspaper, an announcement on February 15th of the rollout of Pulsepoint Connect, and also a mention of the public AEDs that are going in all around Johnson County. First, the AEDs, our campaign provided the enclosures. These are the large yellow boxes that are heated, combination locked. They contain an AED. They also can contain other rescue equipment. But 3 of them are now live in Coralville. 5 are live in Iowa City. Another one of the 2 in North Liberty is about to go live. Oxford is working on theirs. And then the other smaller communities around the county are all have at least one, and we have requests for more. So we will probably be in the near future buying some more of these enclosures to go with AEDs that Fiona has available. The Pulsepoint Connect is an electronic messaging system. And Ryan, I don't know if you have any images from that Fiona sent or not, but what I can tell you is this is now live. We, the campaign, paid the $10,000 initiation fee to bring it into Johnson County. Board of Supervisors has supported it with the maintenance fee of $10,500 every year. It is being operated out of Johnson County Ambulance Service. This electronic messaging system provides an opportunity for anybody who is signed on to the app, and we'll talk about that, who gets messaged that there is a sudden cardiac arrest within a quarter mile of them, that they will be messaged to and tell them where the victim is. At the same time, it will notify the ambulance service, the dispatcher, and dispatch an ambulance. It will also show where the nearest AED is and provide directions to the AED. Research on this on Pulsepoint has shown that it increases the response time on an average of 2 to 3 minutes to a victim. And as we've talked about in our presentations, every minute is critically important because your survival goes down 10% for every minute that you do not get CPR. So the app can be is free. Go to the App Store, look for Pulsepoint, and you find Pulsepoint on the App Store or Pulsepoint Connect, and then you go into the app and look for. It will say what agency. Look for the agency, and under the agency to look for is Johnson County, Iowa. There's also a Johnson County, Kansas. But look for Johnson County, Iowa. And then under Johnson County, Iowa are all of the individual emergency medical locations or agencies within Johnson County. So you could pick, if you live in Coralville or Iowa City, you can pick those that you will get some alerts about medical events within your particular location. If you check the box that you are willing to do CPR and have training in CPR, then you will be notified anywhere in the county that you may be that there is a sudden cardiac arrest near you within a quarter of a mile, and alert everyone else who is an app holder who has volunteered, feels that they are trained and are willing to provide CPR. So please take a look at this. There will be more posters going up. Fiona asked me to tell you that if any of you would like a poster to put up in your place of business, that she will be happy to make those available to you. You can let me know about that. I'll send a message on to Fiona, or you can connect to Fiona Johnson, Johnson County Ambulance Service directly, and she will be happy to get you a poster. You'll be seeing Pulsepoint posters on all city buses coming up here shortly, and all the fire trucks and all the ambulances will have not a poster but an insignia, a Pulsepoint Connect insignia on them, and then you're going to be seeing some other larger posters around the community. So this is the goal. The Pulsepoint's only as successful as the number of individuals who are willing to sign on and are able to do CPR. Our CPR training is still delayed. We hope to get back up, and we're going to have to re-recruit and retrain our volunteers. Some of you volunteered in the past, and we hope you'll continue to do that. We will be reaching out to you later in March and April once we're back meeting in person. This will make everything possible in terms of training. So thank you.
Great. Yeah. And Jim and Ryan and the committee, thank you for your great work. For those of you who don't know, the Rotary Kerber Heart Save Project, it was initiated with a Rotary District Community Service Grant that we got a couple years ago. And it's really grown, doing great work in our community. And as Ryan told me a few days ago, you know, this is eventually going to save someone's life in our community and more. So a great project for Rotary and for our community. I just have a few quick announcements to make. Your Rotary board met this Tuesday, and we talked about returning to in-person again. Initially, we were looking at March, but we know the middle of March, we've got spring break week and people taking vacation. And we also need to give the Highlander time to get their staff in place to order and prepare food in advance. So I'm excited to say in April, we are going to be returning to in-person meetings at the Highlander. And we are still going to have the hybrid option. So if you're out of town, if the weather is bad, if you're under the weather, you can still, even if you can't attend in person at the Highlander, you can still click that Zoom link and join us every week as well. So we're excited for that. Next announcement, the Rotary All Iowa District Conference is going to be April 22nd and 23rd. It's a Friday, Saturday at the Coralville Hyatt. And this is a great opportunity to meet not just local Rotarians, but Rotarians from Northern Iowa as well. I get inspired by the work Rotary does and learn what other clubs are doing. So it's right in our backyard. It's a great opportunity, and we hope we have a good representation from our club. We know that we lost Rotarian Herb Wilson last month. This Saturday, there are going to be services celebrating Herb Wilson's life. They're going to be at St. Andrew Presbyterian Church. The visitation is from noon until 3 p.m. The celebration of life will begin at 3 p.m. and there's a reception to follow. And obviously all Rotarians and anyone who knew Herb are invited to attend that this Saturday afternoon. And finally, if you're looking for ways to get more involved in Rotary Club, one of our internal committees, our membership committee, we could use a few more people. We want to make sure we're retaining and engaging our current members, but also at the same time, we want to be looking ahead and looking to recruit new prospective members. So if membership might be of appeal to you, let me know, and we'd love to have you join our membership committee. And I see Ray and Linda Mustin, you have your hand up.
You don't believe I can do this. President Eric and President Ryan coming on. Missy and I had the opportunity to participate with scores of Rotarians from District 6000 this last weekend. And we learned a lot about what their major challenge is for literacy and future generations in our district. And we learned what we can do to make a difference and do something about it. And the first thing we learned was we got a problem in Johnson County, just as serious as around the rest of the state. 61% of the kindergartners in Iowa City schools were below proficiency levels in 2020. And we're going to do something about it. You're going to hear more, and I'll be quiet. We'll see you again, and be ready for a big kickoff soon for that literacy challenge.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Ray, and thank you, Missy, for helping out with that initiative. Any other announcements we have for the club today? Seeing none, we've got a really interesting program today, and I'd like to introduce Devin to introduce our speaker to us. Devin?
Yeah, we've got Kehry Lane with us with the Better Ballot Iowa. He's a lifelong Iowan, was born and raised in Council Bluffs, and has resided in Iowa City since 1998. Graduated from the University of Iowa, works for Unity Point as a desktop engineer. And over the last 20 years, he's also been an actor, director, and fight choreographer for various Eastern Iowa theaters. He joined Better Ballot Iowa as a volunteer speaker at the March 2021 inaugural meeting, and now serves as the lead of that organization's Speakers Bureau. So we're excited to hear more about what you have to tell us today, Kehry, and take it away.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you, President Eric. Okay, so first off, folks, I'm going to put in the chat a link, and that is to a mock ballot for an election. Let me share my screen so you know what I'm talking about here. So it's going to take you to a website, and you'll have options for your dream vacation destination. And you're just going to, you have your first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth on down. You can rank as many of these as you'd like, and skip ones that you're not interested in, and then go ahead and click the vote button down here. We'll return to this at the end of the presentation. So just take a few seconds while I'm getting set here. Okay. So now I'll go ahead and share the presentation. All right. Can everybody see my screen okay? Great. Okay. So as Devin said, I'm Kehry, and I'm here to speak up to you on behalf of Better Ballot Iowa about ranked choice voting. Now, I was born and raised in Council Bluffs. I live with my wife and my 2 kids in Iowa City. And between work and family, I'm sure, like a lot of you here, I don't have a lot of time. But the reason why I'm here is because I'm concerned that our political system has started to go off the rails. And most specifically, I'm concerned about the future for my children. Now, we're going to look back for just a moment here. Back in 2016 was a real wake-up call for me personally, and probably for a lot of other folks. I had kind of been a political junkie for years, following politics because I just found it interesting. But it seemed to me, and I'm sure to a lot of folks, that regardless of what you thought of either of these candidates, this was a really contentious, bitter election. And there was this unbridgeable gulf of division. And that's really what concerned me. And then you fast forward to 2021, going into 2022, arguably things have gotten worse, not better. Now, this is a few rhetorical questions for you just to consider. Who here gets a knot in your stomach when politics comes up in polite conversation? If you're at work or maybe at the Thanksgiving dinner table, perhaps. Who here finds yourself angry about something that's gone on in the political news at least once a week? And, who here thinks that their voices are not being heard either in Washington, D.C. or in Des Moines? So let's take a look at this. Let's imagine a hypothetical election. Now, this is our current system. We have candidate A, and then we have evil incarnate. So, this mock ballot should be familiar to most of you because it's the way most voters feel, frankly. And it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you're on. You probably feel most elections are a choice between the party that you support or maybe even just tolerate and the party that you think is just utterly unthinkable. They can't win, right? So what's the problem with this picture? And I would argue the problem is that you don't really have a choice. Now, stay with me here. The purpose of voting is to hold elected officials accountable. But is candidate A really accountable to you? I would argue no, because your vote is a given. They know that you're not going to vote for evil incarnate, so you're already kind of captive. And it's just the same for evil incarnate. They're not accountable to you because they know they're never going to get your vote, so why should they even try? And if politicians aren't worrying about earning or losing your vote, then they're not really motivated to do much other than keep doing what they have been doing, which right now lands us in this really kind of divisive environment. So let's imagine this hypothetical. If candidate A is caught in a really gross scandal, and it's not enough to get him out of the race, but they're kind of tarnished now. So who do you pick? Now, if you've ever had to buy a house or a car or bargain for something at a market, you know that your power is in the option to walk away. Then it becomes the burden of the salesperson to keep you interested, to keep you there. But many Americans they're so politically polarized that the other side is absolutely unthinkable. And that means that they don't see a viable alternative for their election. And their vote's a given, regardless of how good or bad a job that candidate will end up doing, that's what they're stuck with. Now, does that actually create accountability? I would argue no. Now, you could ask, excuse me. You could ask, could there be a candidate that represents me and all of my interests? And the answer is yes. In fact, you've probably seen that candidate before. So let's take a look what happens when you introduce that candidate. So now we have a new election. We have the same two as before. We have candidate A and we have Evil Incarnate, but now we have this new one, which is the candidate that you really like. But they're running as an independent in this three-way race. So now you've got two candidates that you're okay with, and then you have one that you're scared to death of. So who do you pick? Now, you're probably concerned about what's called vote splitting or the spoiler effect. If you have two candidates that share a base of voters, like candidate A and the new one that you really like, chances are that either of them are going to siphon enough votes away from each other to where the election goes to Evil Incarnate. So this leads to folks doing strategic voting and worrying about whether they can actually support somebody they really want, or they just have to choose the lesser of two evils. And frankly, this stinks. We have a voting system now where we've added more and even better choices, and we actually made the situation worse. So you have the vote that, you have the candidate that you really want to vote for, but if you do, then, like Santa talking to Ralphie, you threw away your vote, kid. I know that's not an exact quote, but you get the idea. Now, so what do we do about it? Well, ranked choice voting. And ranked choice voting simply is just a system that lets you rank the candidates, as many as you like, in your order of preference. And you pick the candidate that you really want, followed by a series of backup choices. And then if your first choice is eliminated, your vote gets transferred automatically to your second choice, and so on and so forth. And that's just repeated until one of the candidates ends up with a majority of the in-play votes. So in the example ballot you see on the screen, your favorite candidate was your first choice, followed by candidate A, and then you didn't even have to rank Evil Incarnate if you didn't want to. And here's the key point to all of this. You can vote your conscience without the terror and anxiety of vote splitting. But think about then what that means for the rest of our politics, if we could do this. Ranked choice voting is going to minimize the problem of the spoiler effect. It's going to increase the likelihood that a majority winner is what's going to be, who's going to win will actually have majority support. And it's going to better reflect the will of the voters. Because you have, candidates that now have to build a broader coalition and really speak to the voters rather than against an opponent. So without fear of spoiling an election, now you have new candidates that can enter the race, making it more competitive and more accountable. You open up the process to the idea or more choices, new ideas. And for me personally, the most important point is that it's going to make campaigns more positive. Now, it's easy to overpromise in a situation like this, that this is going to be the thing that fixes everything. It's not. Ranked choice voting doesn't guarantee a positive change. It opens a door, though, and that door is open to new possibilities that can help us advance past this gridlocked, uncompetitive, unaccountable system that has Americans pitted against each other. So really what we're here for then is to ask to see, if you, well, here, let me continue on, sorry. To tell you about Better Ballot, we were formed in March of 2021. It was just all grassroots. It was all Iowans, folks that were concerned about the state of politics and really interested in this as an idea to help move us towards a less contentious environment. We don't have any paid staff yet, although we are in this process of hiring our first organizer, and that's really going to help us move things forward. But we really just want to keep trying to grow this movement and getting it out there so people are aware of it. We are strictly nonpartisan. We're not ever going to advocate for a particular candidate or party in any election. We're merely here to talk about a reform to the system that will make everything more accessible, more desirable for everybody. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and so we're focusing right now on education. We're tax deductible. Forgive me, I have to throw that out there. So a little quick pause here. You can unmute or type in the chat. What would you perceive to be the biggest obstacle to implementing something like ranked choice voting?
The two political parties currently in power not wanting it.
Sure, that could be part of it.
I think complacency, like for a lot of people, this does work or has the perception of working. So why mess with a system that works?
Sure. Yeah, possible. People resisting change, I see. Another vote for parties. Parties want control, get appropriate approvals through government. Yeah, sure. I would say, though, our very first obstacle is awareness, because 90% of folks in Iowa have never even heard about this. So that's really what I'm here for, is to get this campaign going, getting folks talking about it, just so they're aware of what this option is out there, that it could actually make things better. So we are focusing on a two-step campaign, right? First is capacity growth, and then it's going to be the legal enactment campaign. Now, most organizations that try and do something like this try and jump right to the legal enactment campaign, and then they burn themselves out and they end up getting really nowhere. So our strategy is first to just try and recruit people, money, and endorsements. Now, we're still working on what a successful phase one actually means, but we're talking tens of thousands of supporters, tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then racking up endorsements from local and state and community leaders. And we just need to kind of get a groundswell of support before we approach the legal enactment phase of this. And I'll get to your question right here, or here in just a few minutes, Ms. Walls. This is a graph of what our growth has been so far. So we started in March of 2021, and we had at that time, I know it might be hard to see on some screens, but green is donors, gray is volunteers, and then blue is supporters. And supporters are just broadly folks that say, hey, I like this idea, and they may or may not be donating or volunteering there, but they are on board with this as a concept. So we had about 30 or so folks from that first meeting. And then by the end of 2021, we had about 70 folks that were active volunteers, 800 or so supporters. And then if we move forward, projecting this growth, we could have up near 4,000 folks by the end of this year. And then into 2023, if the numbers keep going at a 15% per month growth rate, we're hitting close to 20,000. And this might seem pie in the sky, but it's not. This has been done in other states. And we're just getting started here in Iowa. We're also we're also the only ranked choice voting group in Iowa right now. So we've got a lot of room to grow. Okay, so last plug here. If you're interested in helping out, we are always looking for folks that can volunteer in any capacity, like speaking engagements like this, or behind the scenes doing any number of other tasks, canvassing, etc. We also, of course, are always looking for donations if that's of interest. But I really just want to thank you for taking the time, and pardon my flubs with the tech there a little bit, but here's the links that you would follow to join or donate. There's a couple of QR codes if you prefer to do that, links to our social media. And now for the fun part, before we get to Q&A, let's go back to, let's stop sharing the screen for just a moment, and then we'll take a look at the results of that mock election I posted earlier. All right, so this is where we landed, with Sydney, Australia being the preferred destination. And we go back to round one, and this wasn't even close. We started in round one, we had Sydney, Australia had the most votes out the gate, so then advanced to round two. which this isn't updating appropriately, but Cairo, Egypt would have gotten eliminated. Okay, so it just jumped right there. So Cairo, Egypt was eliminated. That vote was transferred to their second choice, which was Sydney, Australia. And then that hits the margin for the most votes. That's just a simple kind of demonstration of how this works. This website also, rcv123.org, allows you to set these up on your own if you ever need to do this within your organization. So it's just kind of a nice free tool that's out there if you want to experiment with it. And with that, I'll be happy to take your questions.
Great. If you have a question for Kehry, please click raise hand and we'll call on you. And Kehry, I was going to ask, are there other states or countries that do this ranked choice voting? And if there are, what type of experience have they had with it?
Yep. So ranked choice voting has been in use for 100 years. It's been in use in Ireland and in Australia on a federal level, like for their just countrywide elections since 1919 in the case of Australia, I believe. It might be both. Within the United States, it's used in quite a few different locations. Utah, they have 20 cities or 23 cities now that use it for their municipal elections. Maine uses it for all elections. Alaska just voted by referendum in 2020 to implement it, where they're going to have an interesting open primary system where there's, you don't do a party primary, everybody just goes and votes for one. The top 4 vote getters out of all the candidates, regardless of party affiliation, will then advance to a general election ranked choice voting, where this system is then used. So they kind of narrow it down to those 4. And then we'll see for the first time in 2022 how it happens in Alaska. I think that's going to be a really fascinating election to watch. It's also been used for service members for like when they're deployed abroad. They've had ranked choice voting ballots for years and years and years. Like it's not a system that's like the new fad. It's actually been well tested and well proven over decades.
Gary Pesha, you had a question, Gary?
Yeah, Kehry, my question is this: this is great for information, and the concept is great. Is there a plan within your group? Is there a plan to get this to, say, the state level and lobby the state, and of course, ideally national, to get this going? Is there anything being done within your group with regard to that?
Yeah, so right now we are focusing on capacity growth because we need to have a groundswell of support to be able to pressure state legislators to implement this. Like you have to show a desire on a broad scale, right? But there are other opportunities that are opening up for us. Cedar Rapids is a good test case. They just had their mayoral election. It went into a runoff. And so then they had to have that runoff election where now Mayor O'Donnell won pretty handily. But between the time of the general election and the runoff election, they lost 7,000 or 8,000 voters that just didn't come back. And it also cost the city another $80,000. So what we're, one of our prongs right now, like they're going through their once in a decade charter review, is to talk to them about, hey, how about considering ranked choice voting as an option to help you on voter engagement and also cost, and also just like not extending out the campaign season. Like it's a win-win-win for everybody. And so our current tactic is working with Cedar Rapids, maybe other cities around Iowa, to try and get that interest generated. And then it depends on how that city is established. I believe some with home rule charter can do it on their own, but others might need state approval. So it's a long answer, but in short, yeah, we're just looking for opportunities to demonstrate where this would help, and then using that as a way to kind of push forward.
Thank you.
Brianna Wills. Brianna, you had a question?
Sure. Kehry, do you see that there are any big foundation, think tank, super PACs, any of those type of organizations that are big into funding this type of research or advocacy that you could kind of jump in on with, that are pushing this type of movement around the US? I mean, that seems to be the way that a lot of these movements get funded and get pushed through different legislative priorities these days.
Yep. So there's fairvote.org. They've been around for 30-ish years, I think, since the early 90s. And they're kind of the ones who've really been pushing this the longest. And we do confer with them on occasion, but we work with another organization called Rank the Vote, which is kind of an umbrella organization that works with state groups. They work with us, they work with the Utah group, they work with the Alaska group, they're just all over. So yeah, we do, I guess, kind of cross-pollinate through them. So share ideas and tactics or strategies and that kind of thing.
I mean, is this something that, like, you know, the Gates Foundation or some of the big foundations might take on, or any of those groups? Have anyone written grants or something like that that some of the big foundations might take on?
That's very possible. I am not aware of any of that personally. I could reach out to our policy research team and get back to you on that.
I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm just kind of throwing out ideas. I mean,
Oh, okay.
it seems right up the alley of something Gates or one of those big foundations might be kind of interested in. I don't know. I mean,
Sure.
I don't know their exact thrust of their interest, but it seems like one of the big guys might be something they'd jump on.
Sure.
Great. Chuck Swanson, you had a question?
Kehry, nice job. That was very interesting. My question has to do more with kind of the future. And I'm just wondering if there's a possibility for an educational component to this, young people, because, you know, they learn from us. And, you know, if we take care now, I think we need to be thinking about the future too. So that's a whole nother ball game, but I think that's an important component to this.
Yeah, and to speak to that, I have reached out to university Democrats, the college Republicans, with the aim of trying to get them together in a joint presentation to where I could talk to both groups at the same time. And then another thing that I haven't started yet, but I would like to get involved with City High, West High, Liberty High, and try and talk to their student government organizations, see if we can get this implemented in a school setting just as an educational opportunity. And then hopefully that carries forward out into the community in general.
Any other questions at all for Kehry? Well, Kehry, we really appreciate your time and your program today. One of the many initiatives of Rotary, not just our club, but Rotary International, is the eradication of polio. So in honor of our speaker every week, we make a donation to the Rotary Polio Plus program in our speaker's honor. And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation matches that 2-to-1. So that'll result in 70 polio vaccinations around the world in your honor. So thank you again for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, folks. I really appreciate it.
And final reminders, we should have another interesting program next week, next Thursday. We have David Cromer, and David's program is entitled The Band's Visit, an interview with the Tony Award winning director and producer. Should be a great program for us. And we conclude each and every one of our meetings with the Rotary 4-way test. So if everyone could please unmute yourself and join me in our Rotary 4-way test, we'll have up momentarily here. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it for concern? No goodwill and better friendships, beneficial to all concerned. Hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you all next Thursday.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.